All right, the co-action committee will now come to order. It is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. The time is 5:14 p.m. We do apologize for the delay. This meeting is held in person and by interactive technology, conference technology. The meeting will be recorded on Zoom and uploaded to the planning department's YouTube channel. As a reminder, per sunshine law, AC members appearing remotely, which I believe there are none, must keep their cameras on and announce anyone with them in their location. So now we will do a roll call. Vice Chair Pernell Honor. Here. Committee Member Babette Morrow.
Here.
Committee Member Catherine Williams.
Here.
Committee Member Kohinani Mokuhali'i. Committee Member Kaveni Ibarra.
Here.
And I am Chair Jason Masters. I believe we have a quorum to hold this meeting. Our only absences, I believe, are Jesse K. And county staff, we have planning department, from the planning department, Mariam Palma, Jessica Lahib, and Shannon Arkitola. You're new to us, I believe. And Janisata. All right, please make sure your cell phones are off or turn on silent mode. If there's anyone who would like to testify, please fill out the sign up form. We will call you in the order received. Zoom testifiers can sign in the message chat into the Zoom host indicating which item you would wish to testify. We ask that everyone please state your name before testifying. So whether over Zoom or in person. To all of us who are attending here in person, please remember to speak toward the owl, which I believe is this. Oh, there we go. So everyone on Zoom can hear and see you. A general reminder, in order to comply with Sunshine Law, all testimony and discussion must be addressing the specific agenda item the committee is addressing or deliberating. If anyone has anything else to discuss that is not on today's agenda, that can be brought up on agenda item 5, which is the agenda for the next meeting. Testimony for agenda item 5 can be taken at the beginning of the meeting or later in the meeting when that item is called. Right, so at this point, we will introduce the minutes. The time is now 5:17 p.m. The committee will now consider approving the draft minutes from the January 28th, 2025 meeting. May I ask for a motion to approve the January 28th meeting minutes as circulated?
So move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, so I see no corrections. I had none. All right. So we can move forward, is that correct? All right, the time is now 5:17 p.m. The committee will now call for statements from the public as stated in the Miriam's doing something.
Don't we have to vote on the motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe you are correct. So
We have a motion.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, seeing none, the motion is passed. The time is now 5:18 p.m. The committee will now call for statements from the public. As stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at any time the agenda item is called to order. If there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign-up form on the front table again. So does it say agenda item number 1? Okay. So it looks like we will move. So that is for. So is there anyone on Zoom who would like to provide public testimony on agenda items that were not specifically provided? All right. No? So the time is now 5:19 PM. The committee will now move on to business item number 1. So Naalehu Post Office Safe Pedestrian Crossing, discussion and potential action regarding pedestrian safety at the crosswalk in front of the Naalehu Post Office. I believe we do have testifiers, and the first one is Kyle Soares. So oh. Oh, that's confusing. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So is there anyone that would like, so discussion, discussion and potential action regarding pedestrian safety at the crosswalk in front of the Naalehu Post Office. Is there anyone that would like to provide testimony on this item? So otherwise, we will start with Babette.
Nobody from the public. So we brought this item up at the May 7th town hall meeting that the mayor came to with all the staff people there, and Neil Azevedo, who's the acting director of Public Works, specifically asked him, and he said, well, we already put in raised crosswalks down at the intersection of the street at the corner. And so they didn't see a need to put in additional crosswalks of any kind where the post office is, which unfortunately is not really the answer to where the most problem is at the post office, not down at the corner. So my suggestion is they're not going to do anything unless we can show that there's a real problem there. And I talked to a couple people in the community and suggested perhaps we could, I mean, I don't know. At this point, we have a subcommittee or a PIG or something that we have to form.
Well, I think before we get there, so I believe, if my understanding is correct, that the county had proceeded with a study.
Right, so from that last meeting, planning reached out to DOT. And we have Shannon here to give the update on that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Hi. Okay, I'm gonna sit down in front of that owl. My name is Shannon Arquetola, Long Range Transportation Planner, Planning Department. So thank you for bringing this concern to our attention. I got the message through Mariam, and so we already reached out to DOT. So actually that highway is under state jurisdiction. And so we're in contact with Ray Dovalino at DOT, and he's been very responsive in trying to mitigate the situation. They've already done the study, analyzing the amount of pedestrians crossing as well as the traffic. So they concur that it is a safety concern. So they've already looked at options for putting in speed humps. So they are considering it. So rest assured they're looking into it. They were looking at temporary implementation because that would be a lot quicker to get in installation. However, because they don't have the proper materials, something that's sufficient for that type of roadway, that kind of got tabled for a bit, but they are still exploring permanent options too. So the only thing is that's going to push it back a couple of months. So he was hoping to get something in towards the end of June, but it might be a little bit longer. But they haven't given up on the temporary to try and get that in. They are looking at other materials or possibly another contractor that would be able to do the work. So
Good.
so they are looking into it. They're working towards they get it. They want to help and fix it.
Can we contact you for an update for when our next meeting comes around? Great, thank you.
And then like from a design perspective, so if I recall from my previous work experience, like it wasn't really a crosswalk, but it was like kind of like a bunch of crazy lines that they would do so that they'd be like, hey, people walk here. So it's not a crosswalk. And I don't know that that's necessarily something we want in Naalehu, but at least perhaps in that area that, hey, people walk here. So is that something they would be interested in entertaining, or how does that process?
Possibly, if you folks share those suggestions with me, I'm happy to share that with them. I know they do have certain specifications depending on the roadway or not, and they didn't provide me with the details of the design or anything like that. So, but any information you would like to provide, I'm happy to relay that onto DOT.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah.
From this is that we can ask DOT to come to the meeting once they're ready and present this to the community in various forms, and maybe coming to an AC meeting is one of them, and
That-
that's where they can start collecting that feedback as well.
I
don't know
think
if there's
we'd
any other-
welcome that very much.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other opportunity that they have in their protocol, but we can make that request and share that. Yeah,
So, I mean, I've lived here all my life. I notice at the post office here, we see a lot of guys that use the post office park across the street at the church and try to cross the street. So this is why probably we're looking at a crosswalk. But right now I see open space available where the old theater was. So if they could change that into a parking lot, they probably wouldn't have to put in crosswalks because they'll be on that side of the post office and be walking directly into the post office. That's just my suggestion. So thank you guys.
Mm. Too much sense.
Put that nice chain on. That's right.
It's, if that old theater site is still owned by that large corporation that
Sure.
never responds to us, it might be difficult. I mean, I think it's a great idea, but
Yeah.
we tried for years to get some response. But it's, I guess it's worth trying again.
It, the one, yeah, that is
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. I believe you are correct. I believe you're also correct. Yeah.
Yep.
So we have somebody.
All right.
Kauhi. You wanna make this? She was wondering if maybe we should, as a committee, draft a letter to Weinberg Foundation,
Hmm.
bring that up.
So I guess the question is, on behalf of our committee, so, you know, as some or none or many of you may know, so the Weinberg Foundation, you know, is from America, from the East Coast, and they own, well, they still own the theater, and then they had it demolished, and so they still own the site. And so I'm not really personally in favor of parking lots, but at least utilizing it as a temporary parking lot perhaps in lieu of, other public safety concerns, I think is a valid, effort of our committee. And so, if somebody, so if no one else would like to provide testimony on this item, would someone like to make a motion in that regard?
So I'll make a motion that the action committee draft a letter to Weinberg Foundation for use of that property for parking
Purposes?
purposes.
Okay. I-
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All those opposed? All right, seeing none, the motion carries. The time is now 5:29 PM. The committee will now move on to business item number 2, Kalai Coastline Access and Resources, discussion and action on previously submitted letter regarding protecting cultural sites and natural resources in the greater Kalai area, particularly Mahana Bay. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on this item? All right, seeing none, is that correct? So just to answer your question, quickly, I believe it's attached to the agenda. So we had previously attached the letter.
Well, Jason.
Yeah,
Just, just to bring everybody up to speed, the issue was somehow controlling the amount of usage of that whole area down there and the land being torn up, the erosion into the ocean and all of those issues that we've discussed. We had a meeting in July of last year and another meeting in August of last year. And in September of last year, we sent a letter to the then planning director, Zendo Kern, with copies to, I believe we had requested DHHL and DLNR. There was a study. The two that I can remember right off is the one that was done in 2012 and the one that was done in 2016. And I think there were probably others done prior to that, as a way to control the vehicular access down there and to protect the natural resources that we have. And as far as I know, nothing's ever been done. He went to a meeting in January of this year with a representative of DHHL about access down to Ka'alualu. And I don't know if this other item was discussed then.
Yes, okay, so there was a meeting, for the community, and, with Brian Jeremiah of Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And they were, giving information on a plan that they were gonna act on the 2016 plan for Kalai in Southland. Okay. So, anyway, at that time, they were mentioning that they were going to gate Ka'alualu entrance and give 90-day notice, then a 60-day notice, then a 30-day notice to the community. They were going to put in a fire access road below the ranching parts of the property and the beach side, so that would be a fire access road. And then eventually they were going to close the ramp side. And then after that, they would close Kalai itself where it makes the Y, yeah?
Hmm.
And then they wanted to have a local 501c3 kind of set up for local security so that it could be monitored. So those were all items that were in the 2016 study that actually passed. So there has been, since then, no updates and no action. So at this time, we can move on with, they are, I guess, still in study processes. So at this time, there hasn't been any implementations of their plan. And I think there were some of us who are here were at that meeting, yeah? So unless somebody else has any further information than I have received, and I reached out to Brian Jeremiah too. So that's, at this time, there's no movement. Anybody else have comment? Please, we welcome it.
So the land all down there is called Horn. The school is more nothing on that.
Not past the cattle guard, if I'm, that's correct, yeah, yeah.
So they-
And sir, if I may, for the record, just so we know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to ask. How many schools was in a dialogue loop with you guys on this?
No, this is all Department of Hawaiian Home.
It's all Hawaiian
So
homeland.
it seemed that one was just talking about putting a gate at the wire on the road right now.
Eventually, and this would be closure to let the land heal. And I also forgot to mention that they were going to, in their plan, try to repair the ruts that have gotten to be 9 to 11 feet deep. And so it was their plan was to help the land heal and to reopen. And that's where it laid. So, but at this time, like I say, according to DHHL, nothing has moved forward yet. So that's what I have on that portion of it. And then we had written that letter to Zendo Kern and there was no response. So at one of our other meetings, I believe in January, I was asked to hand deliver this letter to Brian Jeremiah, which I did. And so he was aware of the CDP's concerns as well.
I'm sorry.
Department of Hawaiian Homelands, he is the East Hawaii. Let me know. He is East Hawaii District Supervisor for Homestead Services with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Mhm.
Yeah, and so if I may, so at that meeting, I mean, really in my opinion, their effort was for Ka'u to do something. So as Auntie mentioned, for Ka'u to create a nonprofit or whatever entity or organization, and I'm not Hawaiian, obviously, but I said I would be willing to help out. But it would have to be led by, is it the benefactors? Is that the term? Beneficiaries. And to take care of it, because otherwise Hawaiian Homeland's gonna do it on their own. And so, at that meeting, again, in my opinion, not as this committee, they really wanted the people, well, ultimately the Hawaiians, the beneficiaries specifically, to figure out how they're gonna do that, And so I asked him, like, can I help out? And he said, yes, but it has to be the beneficiaries that decide how that's gonna take place. So if the beneficiaries don't, then again, this is just my opinion based on what I heard at that meeting, then they're gonna do what everything is written down on paper, They're gonna put up a gate, they're gonna close down the roads, they're gonna do everything that has been studied everything that has occurred. And so all we are doing is trying to make sure that something happens because, you know, I mean, like many of us born and raised here in Ka'u, like, bruh, growing up, it was awesome. And then it's not too awesome anymore, you know? And so, and I'm only, you know, I'm not that old. So if you go back generations, I'm guessing it used to be a lot more awesome, you know? And so, like Auntie was saying, if we can allow the land and not only the cultural resources, but by protecting the land, we protect the ocean, you know? And people go down there and they just do whatever and then they leave. They're not from Kau. They don't care. They just take. They leave out their Opala and then they leave, you know? Yes.
Aloha, my name is Sophia Hanoa. I was wondering, where does the Ka'u Department of Hawaiian Homes Association stand on this? No, Jeffrey guys, you guys.
Yeah. So so I think these are questions that need to be asked, you know?
Now that they have closing access, it takes us more time to get there. In fact, I contacted Michelle because I can understand the history of Hawaii and history of Hawaii. Like the first sugar mill, everything was brought up from Kalawalo Bay to Wahino to build the first sugar mill back in 1866, or 1860, excuse me, wait, 1886 maybe. Well, anyway, I get my dates maybe mixed up, but anyway, it was some time back. I wasn't even there. But growing up, I mean, I used to run down to Kalawalo. We used to camp at Kalawalo. We used to go hunting. My dad used to work for the ranch. We used to use the ocean for gather our food. We used to have family occasion when we then went down camping during the summer. So, how do you get, how do we make the Hawaiians palina to the land if they're not even getting access to the land? How do we get the natural resources if we don't have access to the resources? I personally took the longer route to Kalawalo Bay by using Kalawalo Road, which runs from Waihino down to Kalawalo Bay. And the road is so damaged, it's like, it takes a lot of time. It took like maybe about hour and a half just to get there. Where if I was to go to the route that I formerly used from South Point Road onto the pasture, it'll probably take me 45 minutes, half the time. And access is easy, and I don't see why the ranchers like have to close up the gate, especially Hawaiian Homes. It has always been open. And I think what I've heard is just what I've heard. I'm not too sure if it's true, but I think we had people like damaging some of the cattle fencing or the property of the rancher. But I think there's laws that are made that can penalize those who do the damage. We can't just penalize the whole community when only one bad apple and do the bad thing. We should just catch that one bad apple, put him away. So the rest of us guys who respect the island, respect the land, can be able to use them again. As far as like for subsistence and food supplement. I mean, that's what Hawaiian Homes trying to do, give out land. And look, they took so long for give out the land. This is why now we got to struggle and get our own food. Yeah. I mean, I've been involved with Hawaiian Homes. I'm an activist, yeah, but I'm also an advocate. So I don't know, somebody got to talk to Hawaiian Homes, even me as a beneficiary. I've been on the waiting list now maybe 40 years and still waiting. And when I went before the commissioners at times, I told them, I waited for you guys and I'll still be waiting. Sometimes you just got to move on your own because the things that you got to follow to meet the federal government is just so overwhelming with the amount of paperwork that need to be done, especially getting the residents. And now I feel like they're cutting off our livelihood by taking away that access by getting to the beach to do our gathering.
No. Mhm.
I just wanted to say that we need to put the pressure on DHHL. There's so much things happening. They're playing the people back and forth. Having the same thing. They gave the people the land, but still have no water. 2 years ago, we picked out a place to have the tank. It's full of water. Jukanuha said they had the funding to hook up everybody. Nothing happened still. We still got a haul water and there's no water down at Kalai. But it's happening all over now. And Paul is right. Soon they're going to take away all of our access rights to natural resources to be sustainable in Ka'u if we're not careful. It's happening now on the shoreline. That's why my grandfather in 1985 fought for public access rights at Kawa, which led to the PASH Act that we have today. We have rights. We have a right to sustain ourselves for the future and for future generations. So I think, you know, waiting on DHHL and they say putting them on the homesteaders, doing this, they're just passing the buck. They're just passing the buck and they're going to continue to do that until we take action.
Support what she said. But I think what happened with Lahaina has brought to the forefront what truly liability means. Hawaiian Homes is panicking. People down there barbecuing, doing whatever. We all do that. We all barbecue, we enjoy. But we got people coming from outside with ATVs and stuff and desecrating the land. It's been happening for decades. Now we have tourists going down there because, you know, online you have information as to places to see, things to do, places to go. But the gate issue is something that's coming up because the reality is this: $4 billion was awarded in Lahaina. Bishop Estate was one, State of Hawaii was another, Maui County was another. Liability is through the roof. It's no excuse for Hawaiian Homes to have no presence in Kau. I spend time in Waimea working. I go to meetings in Waimea. I hear the same thing with Kauai Hawaiian Homes. They don't have water. So these things are not done by accident. These things are to suppress. This is a tyrannical kind of an approach to weeding out people from ancient Hawaiian times, yeah? So when we take away access, we take away water, the human being is gonna die. In 72 hours, you don't have water, you die. So what does that say to the Hawaiian people? State of Hawaii is abandoning their fiduciary responsibilities and moral responsibilities. Hawaiian Homes had $600 million 2 years ago. Kau probably never saw a dime, won't see a dime. Even in Waimea Hawaiian Homes, I see them. They're talking about doing broadband installation for 72 million. Brian Schatz is talking about doing that. It's the last thing they need. You need water, you need access to your cultural resources. But in short, just what I'm seeing with Kalai and what's happening down there, when they mention a gate, it's to keep people out because of the liability issue. And I think that's a poor excuse. Neglect, Kalai is all about neglect when you see that place. And it makes me really, really sad and emotionally distraught when I go down there, because I remember, like he said, how it used to be 30, 40 years ago when I first came to Kau. Thank you.
So I guess that's the question, you know, I don't know that we're gonna solve it tonight. I don't know that we need to make a motion. I don't know if we need to move this forward. I don't know if we need to continue it. I don't know if someone from the community wants to propose something. I mean, I thought what we had requested was pretty significant of all the entities in charge. And, you know, I know some of them are no longer in office, so I don't know if we just rewrite it to the people that are now in charge, like any ideas from anyone, or do we continue it to the next meeting?
So you guys try to get a hold of Cody Long, send better. This is part of what his opinion is. Get it from the guy at the top. He's the one that asked that.
Was that the guy,
Probably was.
He's the head now.
He was back in the 90s. He was the head. But we kind of recirculating himself. They can, someone needs to find somebody who's 35 years old. You know, when you come in, you know.
Yeah, that makes too much sense, right?
To do the work. Sometimes, you know, you get the people from the past coming to the present, but continue to do the same protocols in which the past was, and that's all you know. So it's not being critical, it's just being real. As to be on fresh ideas and fresh, you know, passionate, people to be those stepping into those kind of positions.
But Miriam, are we required to only communicate with the planning director, or can we directly communicate with these other people? Because I know when we sent the letter to planning in September, we asked to have copies sent to DHHL.
It was,
It was.
they were
But-
copied.
They were copied, but is.
It was
can we-
directed to the
Yes.
director.
You can send letters to any agency or organization or department head or anything like that. There's a question on Zoom. Somebody's asking for clarification on whether the coastline is completely closed off or access is completely closed off.
No, it is not right
It is.
now.
Is that helpful?
This is Hawaii. The coastline is not closed off.
Okay, that was somebody on.
The
Zoom.
access of getting there is exactly what we're talking about, you know? And so
All access points are closed.
Alu Road will never be closed off, is my understanding. That's what we were told at the DHHL meeting. That is a public access road, all right? So the other road goes through Hawaiian homeland. And because of, you know, as was alluded to, you know, the property thievery and destruction and et cetera. I don't know if that warrants whatever. I'm not a lawyer. That's a big question, you know, so.
And so anytime, I think the only real restriction the committee has when reaching out is whenever you're making any decisions or, you know, anything for pushing forward priority projects that you guys have, is that your rationale has to be within the CDP. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
So when you're writing those letters, and that's what we do, because that's also what gives us our leverage in our.
Right. We're not
Yeah.
writing letters about Maui or Honolulu or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's the only thing. So whoever that involves in relevant resources or agencies.
You know, the letters within, paper and sent.
Correct.
Clarified
And I or whoever the chair may be signs them, correct.
So
Well, we send them.
Buy me a hard copy. of it.
You would have to ask the
Email.
county for that. You would have to ask the county.
Unless it's specifically requested, it's usually emailed out. And
Trash and paper, and a lot of times government agencies, they don't wanna, it's like, ooh, I don't wanna respond to the email because then it puts me, you know, in a position of vulnerability. So I need to get back to you with that. So I don't like the way to wait. So that's just not a.
Yeah, Anthony.
Kupuna Kaohi. What was the time frame that you sent the letter to Brian and then never responded?
The letter was addressed to Zendo Kern with the copies that went to him, and that was done August 12th of 2024. And we never did get any response. And then we hand delivered it to Jeremiah, who addressed it with his response. But at this point, nothing has moved forward.
So Jeff Darrow was the guy who put in those plates.
That is.
Correct. So I'm wondering if we should resend our letter, which was written to now current people in position, in the positions. Can I ask a question to someone in the audience? Hey, Michelle, can we do that? How should we do that? To send out to what's your opinion on getting this information back to the people who are now in office? Or in the committees, the committee heads, the new committee heads?
The department heads, you
Yeah.
mean like Jeff Darrow? You could
Yes.
resend it to Jeff. I mean, he was the deputy, so he would have been sort of in the loop.
And then
either
to all
way.
the other.
It's not like
people?
it's someone completely
Yeah.
different.
So
Yeah.
he could just resend to all the new parties that are involved, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess this has actually been helpful for me because people have been asking me what's going on with Kalualu Road, and I've been saying, well, you know, it'll be open because it's a public road. But what you're actually talking about, I think, is what people are seeing gated is Leolani Road, I think, the other road that branches off of South Point and then just kind of stops and I guess goes into a pasture. So that one doesn't have that same kind of status as Ka'alualu. Ka'alualu is a government road from forever.
Right.
So, okay, but that's actually, yeah, I've cleared up some confusion for me on that.
Yes, because
Yeah.
at that meeting, they had mentioned, they were bringing up Ka'alualu Road because they were talking about the little jag with Kamehameha Schools. Bishop
Mm.
Estate has a little piece and then it goes to where Alakakai has it too.
Right.
So there's a little break in there where that was a little bit confusing too, as far as actual access. But it is a government road,
Right.
so it
So,
is
yeah.
supposed to stay open,
No matter
who
owns
owns
it.
it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Mm.
So is it the letter you want to send, is it about this particular, or is it about like the entire? Entire,
No, it's the letter that we wrote and it was 2
Mhm.
pages.
right, okay,
That,
we should
that addressed
resend that.
concern.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
so I don't know, it's in the meeting packet, but I don't know if everybody has it.
Mhm.
So that's the letter we're asking to resend out. Which I think is a good idea. That's only my
agreed,
opinion. I don't know if
agreed.
anybody else thinks the same.
The one that was dated August.
August
I guess
12th.
that's a starting point.
Yeah.
Can I make a
because-
suggestion?
Yeah.
I think we should just resend it. Resend it to the new guys, include Kali Watson, all that. Just send it again and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
And that way we're repeating
thank
this
you.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
uh,
No, that's the wrong one.
no, that's Wauhinu Transfer Station.
Yeah, we're looking at the
Uh,
one from, you had it up.
I think
before,
it's,
From August 12th.
Does it go up
We
or
sent to
down?
Zendo. It looks like this. Oh.
yeah, I think that's a good starting point. yeah.
So we're gonna work on pulling it up.
Yeah,
It seems
so
to
I
be
think that's a
glitchy, but
good-
also on the agenda, the QR code has the meeting packet and all the materials that the committee is going through today is on here. Just a FYI. Thank you.
Who was that CC? The one to Zendo.
Yeah, that's it, huh? Yeah.
Oh. no.
Yeah, so I think that's a good starting point. So,
Oh, well.
is there any further public testimony on this at this point? All right, I don't want to name names.
There's-
So, okay, so if there's no further public testimony at this point, okay.
The scary part about the gate issue. A good example is Kawa. 1980, they had that case, civil judgment 4590. From Mauka to Makai. Was a public access, to preserve the public access, and the families had fought hard. Sophia's family, Anua family. And they prevailed. Everybody in Hawaii benefited from that. Everybody nationally benefited from that. It's a nationally known case when it comes to the East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, Hawaii under the Coastal Zone Management Act. So Kawa, we already had access that they fought for. And they put a gate there. So the 2 gates that are there need to come out. I told the county, I'm gonna give you guys one chance. You take them out, I'm gonna rip them out. They're not, we already had that. That belonged to us already. When the county bought it with the open space fund, that was a great thing. But you're trying to supersede what we already had, which is the right side, they call it the Corral Gate Road. So if they're gonna put a gate on that side of the road, they'll probably want to put a gate down the other side, but the Kaloalo side, being a government road, falls under a similar situation as a civil judgment 4590. To include that in your letter to the county so that they can look at the Coastal Zone Management Act of 1969 that Congress passed to specifically address these kind of issues. So that would give them something to, each county corporation council has a full file of that. They made like they didn't know about it. They were confused, but they had a full file on it. They have it in there at the county right now. Mitch Roth told me he was there. So maybe include that in your letter that we're concerned about Kawas Gate being closed only as a comparison to the rumor that they may put a gate on South Point. So Kaloalo is our last ditch resort to apply the civil judgment 4590 access to Kaloalo to perpetuate in the future, to keep that open for everybody to go and enjoy. The other side, South Point Road, might have made it a little bit tougher kind of a situation. But Kamehameha Schools and Bishop of State would have to give either easement or go around the part of the land that they have. I don't know exactly where that lies.
So Miriam, I don't know if we have corporation counsel here this evening, but would you like to provide us something in writing regarding specifically what you just said, and then we could attach it? And then we could attach it to our updated letter? Would that be possible? So, no, I heard what you said. I don't want to put it in my words. I want it in your words, right? So, right. So, no, I'm familiar.
It's important to understand what they try to do is give us an AM PM.
Right.
So we're going, we don't have an AM PM.
Oh, the fish stopped biting at 6 p.m., right?
24/7.
Right.
There's no, you know.
The fish don't stop biting. Yeah.
You know, it's up to each individual.
So is this your only copy? Would it be okay for us to, okay. So would somebody like to, and I believe Cavani had previously said that a motion to resend this.
I didn't make a motion, but
Oh.
I can.
Interested in potentially making a motion and potentially attaching this? I will allow you to make your own. motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to resend the letter we already have and attach as chair sees fit.
And to the updated individuals.
Yes.
I'll second.
Are you satisfied with the current agencies that are CC'd in that letter? Do you want to include any others?
So he had mentioned,
I'm the CC DNR.
well, so we had them, I believe, but I believe there was someone specific that you had mentioned. Yeah. So, and then is there a way to specifically make it a mailed letter to that individual? Yeah. Yeah.
Is it possible to send both email and physical? Okay.
Yeah, can we make
Because I think that would be a good way to cover both bases.
Sign for it.
And I believe
Yeah,
we did.
so can we make a amendment to the motion to include
Okay.
hard copy
Oh,
mail?
okay. Amend the motion to include
Hard copy.
sending it out hard copy and email, certified hard copy and email.
Okay, and I'll second that.
And Nohea?
Just wanted to add that, maybe you guys should add Peter Albanio, Kuali Ikamara, Brian Jeremiah, and then there's also the Coast Guard that owns parcels within that area of DHHL, which is the lighthouse.
So Nohea, could you do us a favor and write those people's name down somewhere for the record? Just in case they miss it?
Okay, and I'll amend my motion to include those people in the party.
Bar have to represent.
And Brian Jeremiah, of course, is the district supervisor. And then the US Coast Guard, I don't know who exactly you guys would inform, but somebody needs to be informed because they own Kalalea, Heiau, in that area where the stone wall is and the lighthouse sits, that's all
Oh,
Coast Guard.
okay.
And then on Pakanaka, part of that is state. So DLNR, and then there's one more. Oh, Shipdi, because of the cultural sites. And if I'm not mistaken, Noho Papa is doing the cultural survey for DHHL.
Yeah, I think our effort is to not leave people out because, you know, I think we wanna, growing up in Ka'u, like, we want everybody involved to solve the situation, right? So, yeah. So, it's like, oh, I never know, right? It's like, well, we let you know. It's a small site, yeah. Yeah.
Gonna be set for Donald Trump, so.
District 14, you have Coast Guard Pacific area.
Yeah.
They're located in Honolulu now. They used to have an office in Hilo, but no more.
Developers.
No, no.
No more. I used to work at the one in many moons. No, they're only.
All right. Yeah, they got eradicated. Yeah. All right. So on that note, I think that sounds somewhat comprehensive. If there is no further public testimony at this point, either in person on Zoom. All right, seeing none, I believe we have a motion that has been amended.
Yeah, we need a
Yeah.
re-second, right?
All right. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, seeing none, the motion carries. All right, the time is now 6:05 PM. Moving forward, business item number 3, Pohui Bay Coastline Access and Resources, discussion and potential action on prior committee efforts related to Pohui Bay. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on this item who has not already done so? So, to bring the public, partially up to speed, in the past, we had provided a letter, if I'm not mistaken. No, well, so we had been in communication at least with the National Park Service. As many of you may know, it had previously been under private ownership. And then it was under quasi conservation, public trust ownership. And then now it's under National Park Service ownership. And so there has been concern that it has not been opened up. And so we had, when this had initially occurred several years ago, we had been in communication with the National Park Service. I had attended their meeting at Naalehu, I don't know, years ago. And that was the last we heard. I had emailed those people. I don't think they work there anymore because I never heard anything back. So essentially, the reason I wanted to bring this was that I had heard people talking about how nothing's happening. And so I guess, is there, yes.
So I have a date on.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine actually did go down the trail all the way to.
Which is open
So,
for walking,
yes, for walking.
not bikes, not motorcycles, not four-wheelers.
But it is well marked.
Yeah.
There are stones on either side to keep people on the trail and I don't know if there's signage to keep people out of the lava fields, but there is a trail that goes all the way down to the bay.
So the last thing that happened was you went to that meeting with the Park Service, but I don't think we as a committee ever
I
From
was,
anything in
right,
writing.
so I was there as an individual because it was the pre-pig or, political, yeah, anyways.
Said they create trails and they were
Right.
going to create signage, so.
And they
it's
said they would
still in
be,
Process,
Yeah.
don't think the signage is, I didn't hear about any signage, but
right,
I was thinking maybe this summer and take a walk.
There was also the,
Just gonna ask this, I'm sorry, but if you could, you repeat what you said in regards to the parcel. Who acquired it before? National Park.
So-
Before now, National, Department of Interior.
Is it part of that?
it's transferred hands several times.
So part of trust public land involvement and all that.
I believe it was under a conservancy trust. I do not recall offhand the specific name. It's transferred several times. Yeah. So
They used to own that before. And they sold it to Department of Interior. No?
Yeah.
You mentioned
it was
Department-
transferred several times, so I don't know what the last one was, but I mean, with all full disclosure, my friends helped to caretake it. So I just know that it was very limited access. I mean, I couldn't even go there and it was my own friends that would caretake it. So part of the concern was that before nobody could go down there because unless you had a key or whatever, and then the concern was, oh, now it's National Park Service, so is everybody can go down there? Well, so it's going to go from no one to everyone. Eh, Well, I don't know what it used to be, right? Because never was able to go down there. I mean, back growing up, like, there was a road and they'd put up gates and then people would bulldoze over it. And then we would walk down or drive down. So I'm walking down there, many times. It's a long walk. Well, I walk down many different ways. I've driven down many different ways. It's cool. But,
So all stuff matters, Kalai, Ohui, Tawa, Whittington. Other places towards South Corner, whatever, what is that one, Ocean View? The one that-
well, Pohui is in Ocean View. Yeah, that's Pohui.
Okay. It's very, very, very clear. It just takes obviously litigation to go back. All of these things fall under that. So when you guys do send a letter, make it voting on that, it applies to all the shoreline issues.
Right.
And we're bringing this up in North Hawaii, the same thing too. Montecito Beach Hotel,
Right.
all these guys think that they exempt from that fund.
There's no
That-
exemption.
That lawsuit right there, which was a victorious lawsuit
Right.
by these guys, Shannon, the people of.
There's no
In
exemption.
1980 is strong. So these problems of, oh, you can walk. But historical use was walk, wagon train, mules, horses, vehicles. So we're in the last pad of life, right? We're in vehicles, technology. So we don't lose that right. Well, you can walk, but you can't drive. That's not the case. That right there brings clarification to it. It brings the Coastal Zone Management Act to the surface. It's really simple. Alaska, the West Coast, the Gulf Coast, and the East Coast.
Right. So I think what you're bringing up is very pertinent is that, here in Ka'u, like, yeah, it'd be nice if everybody can just drive down like Punalu'u, but, I used to go fishing down Kalai like I did on Saturday, and back in the day, like, people from Ka'u go down Kalai and go fishing and catch fish and go home and feed their family. But anybody can drive down Kalai and go fishing, and I mean, I stayed up, 28 hours, and I gave all my fish away to my friend because you're not catching enough for your family.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you go down Pahui, you walk down there, you will catch enough for your family. But that's the concern. And I think, quite frankly, that the National Park Service is I think trying to respect the efforts of Ka'u is how do we balance this access? We want to provide access, but I don't think people from Ka'u on a paved road all the way down to Pahui Bay so that anybody and everybody can just roll up. You know, I think, yeah, the Hawaiian should have access. You want to take your horse or whatever's, chance them, you know. But somebody from Iowa, should they have the same access as the Kanakas from the, that get the heritage? Maybe, I don't know. That's not for me to say, I mean, I'm first generation, but I think that's the question that the National Park Service is trying to work with the people of Ka'u. And I think that's why, this is not the first time that we're bringing this to this committee, is that it's not about access. The access is there, if you want to walk down. I mean, when my father first moved here 50 years ago, never have on road. I mean, maybe had on road, but they walked down, you know.
I mean, access, you can walk far.
Right.
The gate should be that pupunas get access. Our pupunas, despite what we get today, they should always have access whenever they want to go. Not only for physical, together for sustainability, for mental, so they can connect to the ancestors on a spiritual side, and that is whenever, however they want.
So
And that's a balancing act. How do we do that?
The handicap solved target. The same thing, they pick and choose where they want to apply this kind of thing.
Right.
The last thing you want is the Department of Interior and the United States government telling us in a beautiful district of code what to do and where to go.
Yep, I agree.
Their goal and objective, make no mistake about it. Since we bought Kawa and William Beach Park, they bought Koku Ranch for $22 million of our taxpayers' money. Sat there, Lenonite told us in the meeting, I was there myself, and she's talking about how they're gonna perpetuate the Hawaiian culture and the Honolulu heritage. 18,000 acres of kikuyu grass on that ranch. No grazing, you spray Roundup. So be very cautious as to what the Department of Interior's ulterior motives are. Thank goodness the budget got cut heavily. For the next 4 years, they won't get too much money. But for Department of Interior to be way out there, it's to broaden their horizons. You got the Volcano National Park, you got Kauku, then you want to do Pahui Bay. So now it's almost like military strategy. People tell you, oh, you're sounding silly. It's not silly. The Department of Interior, they carry guns. At the Ocean View Community Center, we're talking like this. They come there with guns at this side. Dealing our another community center with guns at their side. Like couple people is, from a third world country, they have no moral, respect. So be very careful when we have these dialogue meetings. The Department of Interior sends the park rangers when they come with guns. It's not cool.
Yeah, so I think for tonight, and again, I was the one that put this on the agenda. I wanted to bring this to the forefront. As the chairperson, didn't want this to be forgotten. I had seen this on, well, quite frankly, people were telling me that they had saw it on social media because I don't go on Facebook and stuff, but that they're like, hey, what's happening here? And so we just want to make sure, we want to hear from the community, what should we do? Should we do anything? It is in our CDP, we had never written a letter. We were trying to work with the National Park Service. I had emailed them, I had spoken with them, I had gone to their meetings. And that's why I don't think that this is hopefully the last meeting that we'll talk about this. I don't think, much like some of or I guess so far, all of the other items. Um, you know, I believe in conversations. I believe that, you know, the way to solve things is to figure it out, you know, not that whoever shouts the loudest gets the right answer. You know, I think that creating answers as a community makes us a community and helps us solve problems, you know. And so, I don't know that we need to make a motion on this item other than to bring it back, you know, if anybody wants to make a motion, I'm very happy to do so. If anybody has any further testimony, I'm certainly willing to listen, so,
Well,
yes.
I wasn't thinking of making a motion, but one of, one of the things I was gonna suggest is that we contact National Park Service to see where they're at, since they were gathering input from the community a year or so ago on what they were gonna do down there, and see what kind of information they already have, and then put this on the agenda for the next meeting and make sure that people in the community know we're talking about it, and see what we could put together.
Yeah, I think we need to, and I agree, you know, but I think we need to keep talking about it so that things don't get put by the wayside, you know. The National Park Service is a federal agency, you know, we are the Ka'u Community Development Plan Action Committee, you know, other than our council person here, we're essentially the only government situation in Ka'u, you know, and we do the best we can. And I think a big part of our effort is to keep these issues at the forefront, you know, and whatever issues those may be, it's the issues that the community tells us, you know. And so if it's a issue that, or a concern or an item, whatever you want to call it, that you believe in, then let us know. But this is certainly in, you know, something that I believe in, so.
Okay, I have a question for moving forward. So if you said you guys wanted to get in touch with the national park, if one individual person does that out of us, we don't have to form a P again.
Right, correct.
So does anybody wanna?
It can even be two. Yeah.
That was a committee I was on a long time ago. so-
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Sounds good. So we don't have to
Okay.
motion for that.
No, we don't need a, all right, so we don't even have to have a motion to bring it to the next meeting.
I'll follow up and.
As you tell me, we will bring it to the next meeting. All right. So if there's no further discussion or motion, we will move on to the next agenda item. All right. Seeing as such, the time is now 6:21 PM. We will now move on to business item number 4, Ohinu Transfer Station, discussion on action on previously submitted letter to Department of Environmental Management to open the transfer station to 7 days a week. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on this item who has not done so already? 5, 5, 5. And so should we provide a recap? Do you have the letter that we received?
She's got it there.
packet.
She's got it.
Pulling it up now. Right, so as a recap, the AC submitted a letter to DEM and CC'd other agencies requesting for 7 days a week. DEM responded back to the letter, which is appreciated, but, and gave their reasons why it is not open 7 days a week, essentially, in the letter. So I don't know if the AC kind of wants to go through that and see what other next steps they want to take. And
What were the reasons for that?
So the reason I got this letter a long time ago, it seems like. But so essentially, the Department of Environmental Management, is that correct?
Yeah.
Said that the gross tonnage had decreased over the past 4 years. And so as a result, if I'm not mistaken, they did not see a purpose of keeping the Wauhinu transfer station open 7 days a week. And so I had met with the mayor at his open house or town hall or, whatever his meeting was called. And so I had spoke with him about this. And so I had said, like, well, yeah, of course it went down in the last 4 years because previously it was open 7 days a week and now it's open 3 days a week. So of course it went down. And so, he had said that he would be willing to potentially, provide for something, yes.
He also said, at this time, there's no funding allocated to support additional operational days, nor are there resources allocated for increased staffing at transfer stations. So should conditions change or new resources become available, we remain open to reevaluating
Right.
operational needs.
So I had so he told me to reach out to, was it Micah Alameda?
Yeah,
And so I had reached out to Micah Alameda and I had forwarded him, Mayor Alameda's, specifically what Mayor Alameda had told me. And I had told Micah Alameda, our committee would appreciate a response before our meeting, which is tonight, so that I do not have to say that I did not receive a response at our meeting. But I have not received a response at our meeting. So, but what Mayor Alameda had mentioned was that perhaps there's a way that they could put essentially like a container, a dumpster or something, so that the other 4 days a week, there's something, so that people aren't throwing all their rubbish on the side of the road or, yeah, I mean, everywhere. I live not very far from the rubbish dump and I see full trucks drive by on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays and Sundays, and half hour later they drive by empty. So they dump it somewhere because obviously the rubbish dump's closed. So, and I told the mayor that, I told Micah that, I emailed him that, I would, Mr. Davis, who is here in attendance, who used to work there, who provide us with, almost 300 signatures and petition to keep it even one additional day, so just so that we could fill the gap. Kau is the only district that the rubbish dump, there is not a rubbish dump open. We're the largest district in the state. We might be the smallest by population, but geographically, we're the largest district. And we are the only district on this island without our transfer station open every day of the week. I'm not saying we have a transfer station open 7 days a week, but we do not have any transfer station open. Bahala's open some days, Wahinu's open some days, Ocean View's open some days. But if you live in Bahala, you're not driving to Ocean View on Fridays to drop off your rubbish. So I open this up for public testimony. Is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony on this item?
Yeah, my name is Gary Davis. I used to work there. I was a working supervisor. And if he's gonna leave, they spend over $5 million there. And the taxpayers only can use it 3 days a week. They should have just left it how it was if they're gonna leave it closed more than half the time. So over $5 million, and if they're talking about leaving a container there, it's just gonna be a mess. it's gonna be a mess. If, couple years ago, we had, a container down in Middle Lee. And that was a nightmare down there. I have pictures to show the mayor, if he like, about how we used to go down there, to Middle Lee every day just to clean up that site, and it was a total disaster. I talked to the mayor also, but not formally. Just at one of the whole laureas. And, and I've messaged him, and he thought it's a good idea to keep it open 7 days a week, but it didn't go past that. And I don't know how many people they need to run their operation. I know they just hired 2 more facility attendants, so now they have 5 facility attendants. They have 3 truck drivers, a working supervisor who's also a truck driver. So there's 4 truck drivers, 5 facility attendants. They're pretty much maxed out with employees. So I don't know. I'm not sure where to go from here, but it would be good if we could. I don't know. I know that they should be just about fully staffed. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think if they spend over $5 million, we should be able to use it 7 days a week.
So Gary, that's 5 people just at Waiahinu, or they circulate?
If they do run 7 days a week, they're gonna run into problems maybe because the other 2 stations will be open. So they'll have 3 stations open on certain days of the week. But they should find a way to staff it.
I guess on
The
the,
staffing is not our problem, you know what I mean?
right.
It's the department's problem.
So the previous administration agreed in concept to it, and I think they just didn't have the people. I think now they're staffing up. I haven't heard that this administration, from that letter, it doesn't sound like they agree in concept. So I think maybe we have to get over that and talk with them about going towards that as a goal. And as you brought forward, I mean, it is complicated because you do have to like move trucks and people and figure out all the schedule. But you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. We're the only part of the island that doesn't have a 7-day-a-week. Waimea has, Kona has. Yeah, so we should, Pahoa is open 7 days a week. Yep. I mean, it does, from what I understand, it does cost like $100,000 a day to have another day. So it is, I mean, over the year. So it is something that takes money. It's not as simple as just saying like, let's open it. Yep. Yeah, let's just, yeah. Well, I will advocate. Thanks.
So do you recall, Mr. Davis, in the past, I mean, obviously Ocean View didn't exist, so were Pahala and Wauhinu both open 7 days a week? If you don't recall, it's
in the
fine.
early years, yeah, before I worked there, everything was open. Well, there was no Ocean View.
Right, so it's just Pahala and Olive, or Wauhinu.
Yeah, Wauhinu was 7.
Wauhinu was 7, but.
CDP was also quite a long time. 2008, do you remember? When the economy went upside down. I said Billy Crinoy came in and he justified his costs. One of the only mayors that justified his costs to justify his decision. And it was justified. And he promised that when the economy got better, that he would look at municipality. So one of the first things I would do is in any letter that you send me, you send a letter, you carbon copy the United Public Workers Union. Because they represent the people that, they work there, DPW. Property tax revenue is 70% of operating budget. Property tax revenue to this island in the last decade has gone through the roof. Why may average working people that live in a house 3 bedroom, 2 bath, pay 4,500 in property tax. So if we have, that is 70% of our operating budget. We have all of this massive influx of building and adding new homes and property that then we're chopping up, the county's chopping up land. Take 500 acres, we're gonna make 5 acre lots, whatever it's gonna do. We do that every week, every month, every year for the last three decades. There's no justification to have the dumps not open at least 5 days. Because you remember, like you said, Miami has always been, when I was a small kid, we used to go down there and stuff. It was open 7 days a week. It still is open 7 days a week. So what happens is the Kano Road up here, everybody throws rubbish up there. Amakua, they throw them in the King Fields. Miami is open 7 days a week. But there's no justifiable reason, under today's circumstances, with the revenue of which this county is getting. 70% of property taxes, just that, is the operating budget, 70% off of the budget. Okay, so she said $100,000 a day. Good, but we want to know how much money the property tax revenue is bringing in this economy, and you take that percentage of cost to go to each district. You think of word environmental management, they want you to go burn fuel, the same guys that hug trees, worry about global warming and the rising of the waters, want to drive an extra 20 miles to go down the road. Environmental management, that's a tool. There's no justification economically, morally, and physically to not have the dump open. I mean, I can't really say obviously. But really promising, he was at a tough time, he did a lot of great things under major adversity economic wise, nationally, that he got out of. But the UPW needs to know that they're not reinstating the dumps back. So let's go back to 2005, 2008 is when the recession hit. So right around then, you look back there and before that, that's where we want to be. Everything comes full circle. We went back in time to how it was. Grandpa and grandma used to pick up to the dump, right in the back of the truck, 6 days, 7 days a week. That's the ultimate political objective. We're not going to settle for anything less. There's no justification economic to justify this at all. It's really, like you said, so you got a guy's house. Before you turn it to you guys, will get that old road with a power line will run across.
Yep.
That is the dump. We'll drive down that road right now. It's all strewn with rubbish from there all the way to we need to.
That's why they put up the gate. Well,
So, yeah, I'm sorry, but there's no justification.
Yeah, I'm not sure who wrote this letter. Well, I guess Wesley Segawa. Or something, but you know, it says, states in there that the tonnage has decreased over the last 4 years because it's only been open 3 days a week.
Right, that's what I said.
Right.
4 days.
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes like, you know. It's just
That's what I said.
Everybody just think that through.
You know what I mean?
No,
kidding.
no guys,
It's like, oh, I catch less fish because I only go fishing once a week.
I think that's.
I used to go 7 days. I got plenty of fish.
I'm not sure when this letter was created. Yeah.
March
And
5th.
he just started his job, so I'm not sure if he wrote this letter or he had somebody from the, you know, before. Frank.
Well, they didn't provide, you know, I am a facts person and, you know, they didn't provide us with any facts, but regardless of that.
Yeah.
So moving forward, so do we have any further public testimony or is there any way that anyone wants to make a motion on this? Cause I'm pretty frustrated like Mr. Davis, I believe.
But I think we should respond to his letter. And, as Kyle,
Well, I think
suggested maybe add.
motion, right.
Okay, so if you want a motion, then I will make a motion to respond back to this letter, of March 5th from Mr. Segawa. And also as suggested by the community to add a copy to the UPW.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. It really helps us a lot.
Do we want to work out the response specifically or will you will create the response and we'll bring that to the next meeting? So I will create the response. Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine.
You can reach out to us.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, seeing none, we will move forward to business item number 5. The time is now 6:38 PM. The Nature Conservancy's Hialeah property acquisition, discussion and potential action related to the acquisition of TMK, parentheses 3, parentheses 9-5-018,
I don't know. I don't know.
colon 001.
I'm sorry, Chair. I just, before we move
Yes, I'm
entirely
sorry.
on, going back to the transfer station. Another, it could be another letter response, but also when drafting, you can consider, you guys could even just ask for a meeting and send a couple AC representatives and other members of the public. That might be helpful.
Do we
Um,
want to reconsider our previous motion?
and instead of waiting to draft a letter and waiting for another meeting,
I-
right? Like you guys. could
Planning
continue
staff
drafting.
recommendation, and I am most certainly willing to be among the representatives.
I think that's a good idea and you guys can work on drafting the thing, but if you guys have the meeting before that, then that can influence how you guys are gonna respond. If that's okay with you guys.
So then it would be a motion to select or send 2 representatives and designate who those representatives are to speak on behalf of the AC. And that you guys work to, along with any other members of the public that want
Is
to be,
it 3 or less or 2 or less?
2 or less. 3 would require a pig.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with it. Yeah. All right. All right, so do we want to would you like, it was your motion, so I can't tell you what to do.
Okay, are we gonna we'll keep the motion and keep the letter, and then we will make a second motion to request a meeting with
Department of Environment.
Department of Environment Management with Jason Masters and myself, Kauhinani Mokuhali, as AC representatives.
Yep. We need a vote on that. All right,
Yes,
do
a
we have a
second.
second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, seeing none. All right. So we have 2 motions that have carried for item number 4. We will proceed with item number 5. Yes. Set that up. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Michelle.
That would be so helpful.
Much
Thank you, Michelle.
appreciated. Okay. School's almost out, so I'm pretty free. All right, so moving forward. All right, so moving forward to item number 5. In lieu of asking if there's any public testimony, I believe the first is Kyle Suarez. Correct.
Okay, cool.
Give her time to, do you want the microphone?
Yes, you want to give a brief overview as to what that topic is.
So a lot of members that asked to sign up to provide testimony wanted to hear what the committee had to say about it first.
Oh, okay.
And then they wanted to provide this. Almost everybody requested that. So unless there's anybody that wanted something different, they just kind of want to see what you guys are going to talk about or deliberate before chiming in. If chair is okay with doing it in that order instead.
Okay, so so this was brought to my attention. I think quite frankly, most of us do not have, well, certainly myself, much information about this. My understanding is that this provides much or at least significant amount of water for much of Ka'u. That it is the Department of well, DLNR or whatever they're called now, had allocated several $1 million to acquire this on behalf of the Nature Conservancy or transfer it to the Nature Conservancy or whatever the case. And my understanding is that there's a lot of questions about this. And so perhaps another person would like to speak about it. Not.
So, I got asked to be here to talk about this, although it is the Nature Conservancy that would be potentially be the landholder, and we're also working with the Ohanuapo. So priority serving forest, either forest, cultural this particular piece of land is owned by Olson Trust. Has been for a very long time. It has all of those things. So it has all of those things. It has a few hundred acres of native forests. There's 3 ranchers that lease land from Olson Trust and have for many years. And it also has on the top of it, there's a heiau that's very significant. And of course, Macanao itself. I mean, the TMK covers Macanao and it's about 2,000 acres. It abuts the Ka'u Forest Reserve and also a piece of land that is already owned by the Nature Conservancy and managed by the Nature Conservancy. So with the passing of Mr. Olson, the trust is moving in a new direction. I did ask Mr. Cross to be here, but it looks like I'm not sure if he's still here. Yeah, he was on earlier, and he may have had to leave. So basically, the trust is consolidating its assets and potentially selling all of its ranch land in Ka'u. So for me and for the other ranchers, that is obviously worrisome. There is some development potential for this piece of land because there are lots of record. So I think it's probably a priority to conserve that particular piece of land because of all of its resources that it has. So the first step really was to figure out how to find funding to do that because it is a big piece of land. And so we went to the Legacy Land Commission and applied for their funding and got $2 million. That is not going to cover the whole cost of this by any means. So it's just a first start towards potentially being able to conserve this very important piece of heritage of this place. So yes, as the council member, I'm very supportive of efforts to conserve our forests, agricultural land, cultural resources. And I really appreciate this opportunity to bring this here and start a community conversation about it. Do you want to chime in, Shaylin? Or you want to wait for, this is Shaylin Kreisdell from the Nature Conservancy. Yeah.
My title is Director of the Hawaii Island Forest Program. And as Michelle had said, the The thinking on this was inspired by a conversation that was had between Kauhana Honoapo board members, Michelle, and myself. What we understand to be the case is that once the trust had made the decision to look at what lands would go up for sale, they began to look for potential buyers. We understand there's two potential buyers of the Makanao Pakua land. The Nature Conservancy would be the third. And in addition to the $2 million that's been awarded by the Legacy Lands Commission, we put in a proposal to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Recovery Lands Fund, and we will continue to look for both public and private funding to be able to put an offer forward to acquire the property, the 1,900 acres, and add that to the Ko'u Preserve, which TNC has managed since purchasing those lands from C. Brewer in 2003. The mission for the Conservancy is to conserve the land and waters on which all life depends. And the management at Kaiholena in particular is aimed at protecting the value of the water there, the water source, that watershed. That started with fence construction in 2008 around the pu'u, and then removal of pigs that was initiated by community hunters and then completed by TNC staff and contractors. The work that we're doing there is aimed at protecting the native forest and its ability to regenerate and then act as a active aquifer, water grabbing entity and pulling it into the aquifer more efficiently. So the vision would be to add this property to that management, put a fence around Pakua ultimately, the forested area, work with community hunters to remove pigs in that 360 odd acres, and continue to work with the ranches that currently have leases there to graze the surrounding agricultural lands to reduce the risk of fire for the native forest and also reduce the incidence of invasive weed trees, acacia koa or the Formosan koa, albizia, Christmas berry. And further, the reasoning behind getting involved in this really is that as it's zoned agricultural, the risk is seen as being high for purchase and then development. As Michelle had mentioned, there are lots of records, so it's not necessarily a full subdivision process that would have to be undertaken. It could be more of an administrative process to divide the 1,900 acres up into, I guess, as many as 28 lots. See if I've forgotten anything. And well, I have, yeah. And initially the conversations that we had with the folks from the three ranches, as well as the caretaker who looks after the Heiau and Makanao, and to be sure that what we have in mind is in line with all of their shared interests. We feel we've received that support. We've also made an effort to communicate to lineal descendants with Kuleana lands there, and we will continue to do so. I think that's my
So I guess the first question I have, and I know it's public testimony at this point. So the $2 million isn't gonna pay for almost 2,000 acres. Okay. I was like, wow, that's really cheap. Okay.
First.
It's the first step.
It's the first step, yeah, and it's really in some ways, we wanted to show the trust that we were very serious. And so that this was the first step to be able to show them that we really want to do this for the community.
All right, and then maybe, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Would you know what a grant of exemption for any easement means?
Yes, one of the requirements for the Legacy Lands Commission is to put a conservation easement onto property acquired with legacy lands funds. And so a request for an exemption from that was made and put in the proposal, meaning that as a land trust with the mission to conserve lands and waters on which life depends, the Nature Conservancy is working in line with what the purpose of a conservation easement would be for the property.
They are a conservation organization. So it's
So you're exempt from an easement?
Right. So the request was that we would be exempt from putting an easement on the property. And that was granted.
Wait, I guess I still don't understand. So any easement, so I had to look up what 173A-4 means. And it means a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, could I
Does
explain?
that apply to Ka'u?
Well, so one consideration, if we were to take a the conservation easement was made on the property, then it would be a legally binding document that would be added to the title, the deed for the property.
Right.
That should the Nature Conservancy not be the fee owner into the future, those restrictions on whatever's described in the conservation easement would follow or be attached to that property. So what I'm trying to get at is that we have management goals in mind for forest conservation, watershed stewardship, but we also have what understand interests to continue ranching and to continue grazing for the surrounding ag lands. And so for us to put a conservation easement together, we'd have to kind of describe all of the potential activities and uses that could come forever. It's really easy if it's straight conservation forest land for us to put together something that sounds like it'll work into the future and protect those conservation values of the forest. But for ag land that would require heavy equipment to come and correct a major flood or hole that had been opened up where there had been a field or where there had been a road, you'd have to have all of those kinds of activities described fully and then included in this legally binding document, which is probably a pretty big process. So to not have a conservation easement is seen as being beneficial.
Allows the ranchers to continue,
Ranchers and
among other uses.
future uses that would be in line with maintaining the conservation value of the place.
But it's not spelled out where or when specifically, necessarily.
Right. The exemption from the conservation easement allows us not to have to spell all of that out.
Broad exemption.
The broad exemption meaning we don't have to file a conservation easement and develop a conservation easement that would address any future use on the property.
It's like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, either everything's conservation. On the other hand, yeah, I got you.
So you asked like what this means for Ka'u, and basically what we're trying to do is keep it the same as it is, with the native forest, with the ranching, and actually, if possible, get a little better as far as conserving what is there, like protecting the native forest even better than it currently is, because right now it's just
It's a struggle.
It's just there. It's not necessary. I mean, with rapid ohia death, it's actually probably getting worse. So the Nature Conservancy has some pretty amazing results with what they have done in the forest that they manage as far as keeping rapid ohia death at bay, which
No, I've been fortunate to go up with Miss Kava, so. Okay. All right, Mr. Soros, did you want to speak or do you have any questions? You were first, I believe. Thank you, sir. And I don't know that I have. Jalen. All right. No, thank you.
I think it's important to understand the Nature Conservancy is worth $10 billion. They are one of the, if not the largest, a few of the largest environmental groups in the world. And they're going to accept $2 million of taxpayers' money to buy private land. And tell us for the last 17 years that they've done great things. If you look at the maps of Kau's forest, there's a protrusion that goes into the forest, of which TNC bought from Seabrewer. That land theft that took place in Seabrewer's tenure happened years and years ago. The reason why they went in there is because of Plantation Spring on the top of the Gila River where I've lived for 31 years. This is not about preservation. We've had ranchers, including myself, go out of business because there's not enough water. Ranchers fighting against each other because there's not enough water. In 1870, Gila Plantation Mill on the bottom where I live, where my house is, there was 8,000 people living there. The gallons per minute that comes out of the Plantation Spring in low times, I took John Cross up there in 2002, before the Nature Conservancy bought it. The riverbed had smooth perforations as if somebody drilled holes into the blue rock and put blasting agents and blew up the riverbed. Now you're gonna sit here, you work for these guys since 2009. You tell me you never saw that. Have you not seen that on the riverbed below the pond? Because I got pictures. So the Army Corps of Engineers was never notified under Seabrewer's tenure, because I checked. Never notified under the TNC who's going to manage the forest. If they truly have a compassionate care for what they say they do, that would have been a red flag from the beginning. So now, because it's in a riverbed and it falls under federal jurisdiction as well as the public trust doctrine, meaning the water, surface water, all waters of Hawaii belong to the people of Hawaii. Attorney General Pam Bondi is going to look into this because you cannot blast the riverbed and not have the water. So what the strategy was, if there's 28 TMKs there, imagine in 1900 or 1870 or 1880, whatever, how many Hawaiian families lived along the river? Again, what I said earlier, everything comes full circle. In order for us to conquer, we have to take away the water. Without the water access, they cannot survive. That is a tool of war. The environmental movement is a tool of war because it's misconception and it's lies. I asked John Raplogue humbly. I went up there in 2002 when the drought was really bad. We had 500 gallons a minute coming out of that tunnel. 5 times 6 is what? 3, right? That's 3,000 gallons an hour. Times that times 24. Jerry Boyd, the Andrades is by us, not enough water. They're hauling with water trucks from Naleo. Me, I'm hauling water. Richard Johansson is hauling water. These guys are sitting up there watching us. Him and John Raplogue. They watched us. They watched the hardships happen year after year after year after year. And to this day, they have done nothing. Now the ranchers are compelled. Jerry's here. Michelle's talking. Because they're afraid. Because the conqueror is here. If I don't support them, they're going to take away my lease. The Nature Conservancy is worth $9 billion plus. And they have the audacity to ask the people of Hawaii, we want some of your trust for public land money, and the punk money, open space. When we started this in 1996, it was never meant. Kawa and Wellington Beach Park is under the county jurisdiction, which belongs to us. None of this open space acquisition money was to be used for anything other than under the counties of every county, Maui, Kauai, Big Island, Honolulu County. Now it goes to 501c3 entities. How did that happen? I'll tell you how it happened. Suzanne Case was the head of Nature Conservancy. She's the one that had the strategy to put all of this into place over the last 20 years. While my business was crumbling, theirs was rising on the backs of us, and access to hunters and food sustainability, having nobody out there. So I'm telling you now, we're coming for water. And if you think you're gonna stop my water and Makano that comes to my house, that gives me life, I hate to say it, but people better be ready. Because the United States Attorney General's office right now is just, they dialed in. What's happened there is a war crime by taking away water from people who live along the river. So you can say, well, it happened, preceded us. What should be done right now, if the TNC truly cares about environmentalism and land management, is to re-inject through pipes for the water to go around the river that was blown up, to re-inject it back into in-stream flow. So if you look at what happened in EL Valley with Maui, it's the same thing with you guys in this subject matter right here today. They went to the Supreme Court, Alexander and Baldwin lost. Because you have, when it says the state constitution says the state of Hawaii shall perpetuate the growth and sustainability of agriculture. We cannot grow agriculture when we're spilling 20 million gallons of water a day in the ground. And you guys are up there looking at butterflies and dragonflies and thinking it's all cool. It ain't cool, bro. So you go back and tell your authorities, we are in no support of this whatsoever. And for $4.5 million, do you actually tell me that I think it's disrespectful to ask the trust to spend that much. At 28 TMKs, you're looking at about $20 million, $15 million. So I'm telling you now, Mackinac Mountain is giving me life for 3 decades. And you will come there and tell me how I gonna use my water? I'm ready to give up my life for my water because somebody's trying to kill me if they're gonna take it away. That's what's happening. You've been here long enough. You know who I am. You know how I am. You know me. We're at a point now, I said, everything comes full circle. Michelle, I mean nothing personal. But you know this, Michelle. You know what's right. You know what's wrong. We started out here together. I admire your passion. I admire your wit. I admire your knowledge. I looked up towards you. You broke my heart. What's happening here is not good. You go back and you tell them, we're coming. Nobody's going to take more water. Nobody.
All right, so, oh, I believe you already spoke, Mr. Crisdell. Would you like to speak again? But I do have a question. So, the water is in the public trust, so.
That was exemplified when Alexander Baldwin sued Maui Sugar. They sold with that 120 million gallons of water a day. So I worked with the Sierra Club, Marty Thompson, who most environmental groups and ranchers don't get along, but we got along really well. We went to Maui, we went to litigation, and went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled it's a public trust doctrine. So Nature Conservancy owns the land up there in the forest. The water that comes out of the thing is not yours at all.
Right.
It's ours.
Right.
So if the Nature Conservancy took a reverse strategy and said, we want to perpetuate the growth of sustainability in our district because water is life. Think about how great you guys would have looked and where we would be today. When COVID hit, I'm a longshoreman. I retired from Matson. I worked there 30 years, 3 decades of working on waterfront. When COVID hit, we had nothing. we're gonna break, everything will shut down. Hawaii is so vulnerable to our food supply, we have no comprehension. So, you know, why I say this, and I'm not anti-environmentalism. I worked in Nature Conservancy in a ranch called the Simon Newman in Merced, California. One of the most difficult things ever. We ran 5,000 head of stockers every grazing season, which is a major importance to the beef industry. And all the TNC did was make things it was impossible. So this opposition in ideological mindset has to change. Instead of being enemies, we need to be allies. But we cannot be allies unless we actually show something, not discuss it or talk about it. Because you guys talk about how you perpetuate environmentalism and land management and forestry and all this kind of stuff. The forest, the water that hits that ground belongs to us. It's like a water catchment roof. So again, do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. So Mr. Crisdale, did you have anything further to speak of? All right, so moving on, we have Earl Lewis. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Kyle, I know you and I won't see eye to eye on this, but I want to be sure that you understand, I completely agree with your sentiment regarding the water coming from Old Plantation Spring being the public trust. That's right. And I also,
25. And we're still here, right? We're still here with the same thing. I went to you were there, John was there, we discussed it. So what has to happen is two things. Is re-injecting in-stream flow, because the Supreme Court already ruled in the Yellow Valley with that. So when we go to federal court, we're not gonna win that, I guarantee that. I've already been there. We have precedent has already been set in. We inject around the break, because I sent a drone up there one time with a push.
All right, I don't want us to get, you know,
So,
so.
what I'm trying to say is that the water here, don't forget now, Kawa Bay, how is it adversely affect at the river mouth of Kawa Bay without the stream flow reaching the ocean? The water in Hilaire River does not reach the ocean is because the man who came with dynamite and blew up the riverbed and blew it up. So the water only comes when it's immense amounts of rain.
No, I remember growing up,
Yes,
they used to,
And Pipele, James, all these guys told me when I first came out here in the 80s. I learned from them and listen. I see nothing. I listen and I watch. They described all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, the water not coming. So I felt compelled and I took John Cross when Ocean Trust was just coming in and we went up there and saw that.
Right.
So he's my witness, number one. We'll send a drone up, number two. To verify the evidence of which happened on the riverbed is very simple. It's
Kyle, I'd like to respectfully offer a day that you and I could go up. Maybe this would be a possibility and you could show me what you're talking about. I'd also like to share with you some of the work that the Nature Conservancy has done to protect that water for
you
the
could also
public trust.
invite CDP members.
I'd be more than happy to invite CDP member.
There he is.
Aloha, my name bro, Kalamakia, Luis. I'm a lineal descendants, bro. Kawa. My name is in the Bureau of Conveyance. Keave. My great grandmother is on Keave, bro. Born here. Puo hao hao. Tau. Pao hao. Pao hao. So what we gotta do, bro? Remember, all that land's still under the road. My name is Fire, bro, in the Hilia. I'm a Kanaka Maori. I get all rights to Maka to Makai. That is my right as a Kanaka. So you know what, bro? If his word say that us can go back, I talked to you about it, bro. You heard. If you like me, with Kyle, I get water rights too, bro. I get rights to even go to my temple. Because I am a Keave. The stamp and brew and stamp them. I'm a lineal descendant, bro. I got the rough pattern, I got rights. And my right is Kuleana. Nobody can stop me. You take me caught, we go. I am half Kanaka. But bro, we gotta work together. And you know, for me, why Malama Makanao? Sacred. I Malama that because I like Malama. It's not for my ego, Kyle. It's for my heart, bro. And for me, that's a Kanaka. We not can let them just be overgrown and let it desecrate. People namo, why up there? Gambo, talk. You guys don't see the heart. Why I do you? I do 'em because I love what I do. And you know what? Everybody get their opinions. But I am a lineal descendant. I have rights to be there. And you guys know that. Enough of this namo, bro. You and you. So stop. Don't get violent with me, bro.
Violent. All right.
Nobody
violent, but
come on.
Fucking rugged, because nobody here scared you, bro. Nobody here scared you. All right, let's calm down. This brother right here.
You're nothing to me.
You ain't nothing to me either, bro.
Okay, Earl.
You ain't
Earl.
to me.
Uncle Earl.
Bro.
Yeah,
You guys have
Okay.
you guys get on the panel. You
You
guys
heard-
getting offended.
Yeah,
Okay,
getting
Uncle Earl.
offended. You
All right,
point
Uncle.
fingers.
Hey,
Come
no-
point finger when only me and you stay. Then you come
no
point
threatening
finger.
me, I know.
No, I'm not threatening.
No
All right,
threatening
Uncle
me.
Earl.
Finger when
All
No
only me and you
threatening
stay.
me.
All right,
No,
Uncle
no,
Earl.
but no.
All right.
Hey, don't
All right,
threaten me.
Uncle
You
Earl.
threaten me.
I never
And you don't
threaten
point
you.
finger, bro.
No, hey, you're
All right,
nothing to
all right.
me, bro.
All
You're a
right.
loud talker. You think you come in here talking loud and you're going to scare everybody in here?
Hey.
Nobody here scared you.
Nobody follow you, bro.
Clown. You a f***ing clown.
Your
You
opinion.
never do You but yeah, you a punk, bro. Out of here.
All right, come on, you guys. Hey,
Talk.
hey. come
You
on.
a punk and you're a talk. That's all you do. Because you
Uncles,
think
uncles.
everybody scared
Hey,
you by
come on,
talking loud.
Uncles.
A out of here.
All right. So we got Uncle Paul Mapukani. You're the last one. You have anything to say? All right, moving forward. Yes. Oh, we have no here. Yeah. Hey, let's do a little. Come on. Hey, everybody, calm down. Everybody calm down. This is Ka'u. We're gonna all calm down. You guys all Hawaiians here.
You know, I just wanted to say that that's why it's so hard to come to community meetings a lot of the time, because we are in a stage of our generation where we try to heal from all of these kind of pilikia within our community. A lot of us have a voice, and as community members, we gather outside of places like this to talk about solutions to these kinds of issues. And all I can say is that, you know, given each circumstance, we always try to do what is in the best interest of the Aina for our survival. I can talk on the good things that the Nature Conservancy has done for Ka'u. In the past year, we've hosted over 3,000 keiki from our local schools, from Ho'okena, Ehunui Kaimalino, Ka'u, Na'alehu, Volcano School of Arts and Sciences, Kuaokala, and we take them up to the forest and we show them what is the reality of what we see up there. And what we see right now is our forest dying. The State Forest Reserve, 61,643 acres, is getting bombarded by rapid ohia death. If it hadn't been for the fence that the Nature Conservancy had fenced off, that forest too would have been dying. But it's the only green section that you see. So I encourage you guys, let's set the date tonight before we leave to take all of you up there to see with your own eyes what good the fencing has done for the Nature Conservancy. What we cannot forget is that the forest acts as a sponge and it calls the clouds and it brings the rains and it puts it into the ground, goes into the Moana Liha, and it goes all the way straight down to Punalu'u and Kawa and all those areas that we just talked about tonight. That's really important. I always use this analogy with the kids. If I were to dump a gallon of water on my hair and then I took a gallon of water and dumped it on Taylor's head. Sorry, Taylor, you're bald. What would hold more water? And so the kids, they remember that. They remember that. And we're not up there just looking at dragonflies. They are kinolau of Kapo'ula Kina'u. They are ancestors of ours that link to gods and goddesses. In the Hawaiian culture, we believe that plants are manifestations of people like Laka, who is our hula goddess. And you see how many people understand that type of environmental viewpoint just by looking at how many participants come for Merry Monarch every year. And I'm a hula dancer. I'm not a competitive hula dancer, but we are ritual dancers. We are pele hulas. And so the forest is important to us because all of the things that we adorn ourselves with for hula comes from that forest. And if we don't malama that forest, then it'll die. And if we cannot work together as a community, then us too shall probably die because we'll just waste time fighting when we could be working together, finding solutions, moving forward, however it happens. $10 billion net work of TNC every year is not much to work with. We just heard that it costs $100,000 to keep our rubbish dump open every day. Was it a one day? So $10 billion isn't much. You know, to take kids up to the forest for one day, 30 costs a lot of money. And so we rely on donors. And there are a lot of people who want to give to preserve and protect so that we have these sacred places to go to teach our keiki. And that's who Ka'u is. Ka'u is about aina. It's about grounding ourselves. It's about having these open spaces. And people think, oh, there needs to be balance. Everywhere else is developed. Ka'u is the last. Why would we want to destroy what is the last that is left here? I don't know what the end result of this whole conversation is from just this agenda item 5, but please, please, everybody should be a little bit more respectful, a little bit more compassionate, and a better example for all those watching behind these screens and those who will watch this recording way after we are done here. And we all might not see eye to eye, but we need to start for the generations now and for future generations if we want to have a better Ka'u. That's who Ka'u is. Ka'u was always one family, one big ohana. And sometimes you have pilikia and ohana, and that's fine. But let's take the steps needed to move forward and find solutions. And if sometimes you gotta okikapiko, cut the cord from people, so be it. But let's still do it in a respectful, loving way, because our keiki are watching and they are our future. Mahalo.
Thank you, Noel. All right, so on that note, I will say we are all ka'u, so let's keep that in mind. So we will move forward with new business. I believe we do, what?
I just have a question because this is on the agenda and it says discussion and potential action related to the acquisition of
Oh,
that property.
oh,
So
okay,
is there
I did
something
miss that. All right,
supposed to
I will take a step back. So, thank you, Babette. So, I will. Yeah. So I think I will close the public testimony at this point on action number 5. And, oh, yes, Santi. Okay.
to, for the water in Ka'u? The water resources and how it has been diverted over the years and looking to who's, these guys all supporting because they
Just in
benefit.
general.
Yes. And, also look into like the nonprofits if they're in compliance of their agreements that they make. We need somebody to be looking into those things.
So I think that should actually come up for new business.
Okay.
So, but I do appreciate that, yeah. Because as Nohea and perhaps others mention, water is life. And as we live in Ka'u, I mean, I remember in the mid nineties, late nineties, I mean, we had a 10-year drought, like water is life, so.
And while that was happening, the plantation stream was falling.
Well, we're not even getting into, yeah. We gotta learn from others' actions and create our own, right? So, all right, so at this moment, so we will close, seeing no Zoom testimony for action or for item number 5. Is that correct? So we will close public testimony for all business items at this point. Does anyone wish to make a motion on business item number 5? And I believe you wanted to say something?
I just was curious as to what Shaylin or Michelle are expecting of us to do. Are you looking, or Shaylin, are you looking for something from us at this point is supporting this acquisition or?
Thank you for that question. I would greatly appreciate your support as a commission. Our work to protect this very special place in line with Focus Initiative 4.2 in the action plan to expand the local system of preserves. We believe that the threat of development is real and that the protection that the Nature Conservancy can offer will be beneficial for all of Ka'u.
Many of the descendants were not. The last family to live there before none of them were notified. Apikis were not notified. Anybody who knows the barrier area.
All right, Auntie, did you want to add one last public testimony before we make a motion on this item? Because
I want to speak to what you said, that the linear descendants, the community never knew anything about them.
so on that note, so the reason, again, I take all responsibility. So the reason I brought this to tonight's meeting is somebody, again, I don't go on Facebook and stuff. They're like, hey, Jason, what's this? They're taking all our water. And like you just said, I never heard about it. And so that's why it's on tonight's meeting. And so I agree with you is that it seemed very significant. I was a city planner my whole career. And I know I did that on the mainland. And they just paved the road in front of my house. And when we used to pave roads in front of people's houses, we actually let them know, like crazy, right? Who would have known? Like, oh, you're not going to be able to drive out of your driveway. Like, we're going to let you know. Well, thankfully, I know the people, and it's like, oh, yeah, you better move your truck because you're not going to be able to leave for the next 4 hours. So I moved my truck. But had I not gone outside and asked them, I wouldn't know that. Right. So things don't always work the way we want them. And that's why this is on tonight's item or tonight's agenda, because there are many things missing. And I do agree with you, and the Nature Conservancy is a huge, global, whatever, right? And I'm not saying that what they're doing is good or bad or indifferent, but I do agree with you that perhaps the outreach could be much better or any better or a little bit better or anything, right? The way I found out about it was I got this notice April 25th, 2025, and we had 10 days to file, a contested hearing. Like, well, I don't want to file a hearing. I just want to know what this means. And so there was like, like that's kind of sucks. Like, wow, either I got to take you to court or like, how do I just find out about it? So, well, let me finish. Well, so let me finish. So, so it kind of sucks, and pardon my language, but it kind of sucks, right? Like state of Hawaii. It's not Ka'u, it's not District of Ka'u doing this. State of Hawaii, DLNR did this. They didn't notify whoever. Can we blame, sorry, I don't remember your name, Mr. Crisdell? Yeah, he's right here. Let's all blame him, right? Yeah. Oh, let's blame Michelle,
You can blame me.
No hands
No.
in the back.
I just wanted to add that this was publicized and there's a YouTube that was recorded of that whole transaction that happened at Kalani Moku building on Oahu last month. So
Right.
it was widely spread and it was all over social media. So if you guys want to
Well,
watch
social
it to
media.
see how the ranking went, that's a really important component. And you can also see all the maps of the areas that were talked about and the cultural history and all of that. All of that information is all public knowledge and you guys can access that on YouTube.
Right. So if you heard what Nohea said, like, so on the one hand, and this is one of my favorite things, the information's out there. So my job as a city planner is like, well, who cares if the information's out there if it's not getting to the people that actually matters, right? And who does it matter to? Well, it doesn't matter to the people on Oahu, doesn't matter to the people in Iowa, but it probably matters to the people that live here that might not even go on YouTube, right? And is that anybody's fault? Is it the fault of the people that don't go on YouTube? Is it the fault of the people that post it on YouTube? No, it's nobody's fault. The effort is to try to get the word out, right? And we're not going to resolve that right now. Right? And I agree. Right? So again, this is the state of Hawaii. We're not gonna get upset with, yes, no, yeah.
Every once a month, we've been hosting Pull Down a Land. And so there's been a wealth of knowledge and people now have been sitting in meetings that,
Right.
Maybe the word has been out there.
Right.
Have institutional plans or Pull Down on that. They can all, everybody's invited to come.
Right.
And they work through the process of writing the affidavit, getting your, send them to be.
Right.
Getting all that information and so the documents you close have already left their life. But don't hear that in the future because that's another camera.
Right. So again, unfortunately, Julia Neal passed away. The Ko'u calendar no longer exists. I don't know that I see him here, and that's supposed to be one of our announcements later. So, or maybe he already left. You know, it's not all about me, but as a city planner, my effort was to make sure every single individual that could have been impacted got word. Did we get out the word to everybody? No. But did we get like 98%? Yes. We very rarely missed anybody. Does that happen in Hawaii County? No. Do we miss 98%? Yes. 2% find out, and the other 98% miss. Does that suck? Yes, it sucks. Do we need to? No. Do we need to improve upon that? Yes. Is that what we're going to figure out right now? No, we're not going to figure that out. All right. What we are going to figure out is there a motion that we want to move forward regarding this acquisition? That is our job. All right. We heard about this. I again blame it all on me. I wanted to bring this to our meeting. I wanted us to have this conversation. Did I think we were going to resolve anything? It's not even within our power. I wanted us to have this conversation. I didn't even hear about this. I don't even know if there's anything we can do about it. I wanted to bring this to a calm conversation, right? Does that always happen? No, right? So, does anyone wish to make a motion on this item, or shall we move forward with the agenda? Yes, Mary. All right, so. All right,
So I would like to bring it back.
Okay.
After we do, maybe create a pig. I know, but I think it's important.
I agree.
Really?
I am not
make sense
discounting, I am not discounting the significance of this acquisition. Okay.
something, some kind of.
Well, we don't need to, all right, I will make a motion that we bring this back to the next agenda to consider creating it's not political,
Permitted
permitted
interaction group.
investigatory group,
Yeah.
right?
And then put it
All right, so who wishes to be on Hialeah property acquisition permitted
Interaction group.
interaction group? So we have one, we have two. We have three. All right. So do we need a vote on this?
No, but you can have up to 4 if anybody else wants to.
All right, would anybody else like to be on? All right, so we have three, so
Okay, and we need to define a scope.
so since it's your pig,
background to maybe do that visit.
oh,
We need
Maybe I do wanna
background
be then.
and we need to do the visit. You guys can do that?
No.
Okay. So,
And bring it back to the next.
and we'll bring it back
Bring
to
it-
the next,
you're fine.
our findings
report.
to the next
All right,
meeting of the CDP.
all right, is that satisfactory? Yeah, so we have. All right, who do we have
I'm not
here?
gonna say that.
So you have Vice Chair Pernell Hanoa, we have Committee Member Catherine Williams, and we have Committee Member Kaveni Ibarra. All right,
Is that a motion?
I don't think we need a motion, is that correct?
I thought she made a motion.
You need to vote on that. Yeah.
Oh, all right, so Committee Member Catherine Williams has made a motion. Can do you want to make your own motion?
I thought she did.
All right, so Committee Member Catherine Williams has made a motion, and Vice Chair Pernell Hanoa, Committee Member Catherine Williams, and Committee Member Kaveni Ibarra to create a permitted interaction group to study the Nature Conservancy's acquisition of the Hialeah property. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those in oppose?
She made a motion.
Yeah,
So
it
you
needs a
second it.
second.
Oh.
Second,
All right, and we have a
and
second.
then you go for your.
And we're gonna bring it back to the next meeting.
Right, well, I'll say that after.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, seeing none, the motion passes. It will be brought back at the next meeting or whenever you have something to report on. All right, moving forward. New business. Does any action committee members have any items they would like to agendize for future meeting? Yes, Babette.
Well, unfortunately, we're running really late because
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about getting an update on the recently passed bill concerning what we
Which is-
can and can't do.
Which is on here.
And, oh, that's your announcement. And I wanted to get a follow-up on the status of the Naalehu Hills subdivision. That we sent a letter to Jeff Darrow on December 30th. And I wanted to talk about, I guess there's no letter that's been written about the access between Mark Twain and Green Sand subdivisions that we discussed at, a number of meetings last year, but I don't think,
All right, so we can add both of those. Okay.
so I was hoping we could talk about some of that tonight, but we're running late.
All right, so for the next agenda, I would agree with Babette that Nalehu Hills subdivision or whatever it's called and the Green Sand subdivision emergency access easement will both be added to the next agenda. Is that fine, planning staff?
Yes.
All right, so do we have any further agenda items from the action committee members?
What was that?
Any other agenda items?
At this
You got
time?
anything else?
All right, all
I
right,
think
if
we
you
got
have.
hands up. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. All right, so if anyone has any other agenda items, please email the CDP team at cdp@hawaiicounty.gov or myself or Gene Campbell, the Corporation Counsel. The next meeting is still scheduled for Tuesday, July 22nd. Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I believe that is the extent of our new business. Before we proceed to to chair announcements, I believe Mr. Lewis has a statement.
What I will say tonight was from my heart. Forgive all me, if I never say something right. Nothing against none of you guys here. I will speak from my heart. And I, accept that whatever I said was right. And you know what? I will speak in the humblest way that I could. So that's all I have to say. It's nothing against you guys, none of you guys here. So it's not personal. It's what I speak from within myself. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Move forward. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for everybody being here. Mahalo.
All right, thank you, Uncle. All right, so the planning department, so I will move forward. Thank you, Uncle Earl. So we will move forward with, yes, with the chairperson announcements, the planning department, well, rather, our action committee is still seeking applicants for the action committee and is requesting assistance to get the word out to interested community members. The application is available on the mayor's office website, which is a very long link, and it is available www.hawaii-county.gov/our-county/boards-and-commissions. For inquiries, contact Micah Alameda, Executive Assistance to the Mayor at micah.alameda@hawaiicounty.gov or 808-961-8211. All right, so as Babette mentioned, SB 869 relating to community outreach boards has been passed by the full Senate. Wait, I thought it was signed by the governor.
The Senate bill.
I believe it
regarding
was signed by the governor.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I believe it was signed by the governor, and so I believe Corporation Council will tell us how that means. What?
So the community outreach board bill that went through the state legislature passed and just got signed by the governor last week. I think what it does essentially is it's going to make the action committees be able to operate under an exemption of sunshine law that regulates the neighborhood boards on Oahu. So we're going to be considered under that umbrella. There's still a lot to know what that means because we've never had neighborhood boards here. So planning is working with Office of Information Practices, OIP, to get a training out to staff, to Corporation Council, to our CDP action committees. So it's in effect. There's now a little bit, some changes. Most of it kind of is the same though,
All right.
but it's coming. We'll have a better idea.
Will we
Exactly.
know by the next meeting? Can we have the presentation by our next meeting?
Or at least.
Probably not.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Try.
The wheels turn slowly, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The changes are minor and they mostly have to do with allowing people to testify more freely about items that aren't on the agenda. We've already made some like procedures to allow that, but it kind of makes it easier for the general public to understand that. So it's not too much I expect should be changing. It's just minor details like having representatives on the agenda and things like that. So government representatives. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and then it says here, the planning commission concluded their general plan public hearings on March 11th. And it has recommendations to the Leeward and Windward Planning Commission links. So does that mean that the general plan is concluded? No.
No, it does not. What it means is that it has gone through planning commission. The next step in the process is to go to the county council. My understanding is planning has submitted the package of all the resources to council, and council is right now strategizing how they're going to tackle deliberating the general plan.
Okay.
That's fair? Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, well, I will probably request to forward this to the next announcement since I do not believe they're here. But as you know, the KOU calendar is not with us any longer, but I will still announce that the new monthly periodical will be titled Alemanaka KOU, which I believe is like KOU Almanac in Hawaiian. Huh? Oh, well, he said like literally, but yeah, anyways. But I will ask them if they would like to come back so they can speak on their own behalf at the next meeting. Do any committee members or staff or others have any announcements to make that comply with sunshine law and do not stray from the agenda? All right, seeing none. Oh, yeah, Michelle, of course, you're more than welcome.
So right now we are working on the budget. Next week will be the final hearing of the budget. And I just wanted to say that I think one of the most significant things that's in the budget is that the KAU Police Department is going to get 3 more positions. Yeah, so that's really awesome so that we can, I forget who it was, but someone was saying, you know, if you don't feel safe, that's like the basics. You can't really do anything positive if you don't feel safe. So that's a really positive thing, I think, for us to get more police officers for our gigantic district where, you know, it's very hard to get coverage. It's very hard to get good response times. Also, we continuing to work on getting a better police substation in Ocean View and sort of building out that public safety there in Ocean View. That's not going to be quick, but continuing to allocate money towards that. We did bring in more of those real property taxes that Kyle was talking about than we expected. So the CIP funding for the Naalehu and Pahala ball field lights are more solid than they were previously. So I think that those will happen sooner rather than later. Yes, I know it's a big priority for the community. The one thing I did want to talk about was there was this program called Malama to Farmer, which was funded from the federal government down to the county to the food basket. And it was a grant program for farmers. And I was hoping that more farmers from Ka'u would have applied, but not many did. We were the only ones that weren't able to take full advantage of the funding. So I don't know if this is in the CDP somewhere, but I think building some capacity in the community around going out there for grant funding, I think would be really great. And maybe we could figure out a way to work on that. I do have CRF funds potentially could go towards helping build that capacity. So that's my announcements.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle. All right, if we have no further announcements, I will now adjourn the meeting. The meeting time is 7:48 PM. Everybody have a good evening and please get home safely. Aloha.
Oh, well,